Influencing popular culture, politics, and everything in between. The local station takes you ringside as we discuss the crazy world that is professional wrestling. This is Going Ringside with the local station.
Hello there. Thank you for joining us today on Going Ringside. Packed episode today. Let me tell you what the lead of the show is going to be. The top of the show will be this right here. We're talking about Devon Dudley is here. And we're going to talk a little about Devon Dudley's Wrestling Academy down in Winter Park, Florida. If you don't know Winter Park, it's essentially Greater Orlando, not far from the WWE Performance Center, about 20 minutes or so. They crank out a lot of stars. A little later on in the show, a friend of the show, the host of the ATW podcast, will be here to talk about Devon, the Dudleys, their lineage as a team, as solo guys. So don't want to miss All Things Wrestling podcast host in just a bit to break down the Dudley boys. And then to round out the show, Old School Wrestling out of Northern Georgia area. They're going to be here to talk about their promotion. And is something interesting about this. They're in Woodbury, Georgia. The tallest person I've ever had on the show, I had Kane a few times. I've had the Big Show, Paul White, at one point. But now we've got a guy who's even bigger than the Big Show. He'll be on at the end of the show. You don't want to miss that. So that's a bit of a tease for Old School Wrestling out of Woodbury, Georgia, coming up a little later on. But first, let's talk about Devon. Devon's going to be here in a little bit. We'll talk about his career, but he's got this school in Winter Park. First things first, let me read you a little about the school. What you can see on their website, I won't tell you how to look it up, but go to devonacademy.com. Let's put it on the screen here. This is all about the school. Devon Dudley Academy has been the premier wrestling school in Central Florida for well over 13 years. Spearheaded by WWE Hall of Famer and 24-time World Tag Team Champion Devon Dudley, the Academy benefits from his 29 years in the professional wrestling business. Having stepped foot in every major wrestling promotion in the world, his knowledge and proven training methods are second to none. Over a dozen students have come out of the Academy and signed with major promotions: WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, TNA, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, All Japan, etc., etc. Devon Dudley Academy teaches you from the ground up, from basic fundamentals, conditioning, and ring awareness, all the way to moves, promos, and professional wrestling psychology. If you want to become a pro wrestler, this is where you have to be. What are you waiting for? So that's what they promote on the website. And I got a bit of a testimonial here from AJ Francis, who you knew as Top Dollar back in the day. Friend of the show, we've had AJ on a lot, but one time when I was interviewing him on our Scott Steiner episode, we sat and talked to AJ as well, and I asked him about when he left the NFL, how he got into pro wrestling. Tells me he went to Devon School. This is what AJ Francis had to say. Oh, you were in Devon School.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so you were in Devon School back in the day, and he's got to put you through hell, I would imagine.
You know, honestly, with Devon at the time, like Devon wasn't there a lot. He owned the school, but the guys that put me through hell was like Billy Gunn and Jay Rios and John Cruz, who's Serpentico on AEW. So like, there's a lot of guys that put me through hell there, but it wasn't hell, honestly. It was fun to me.
So that's kind of what he says. You know, a lot of stars go through there. A lot of stars are created there. And they come from this star right here, Devon Dudley. So I talked to Devon a little about the school, but we also talk about his iconic career with Bubba Ray, Bully Ray, whatever you want to call him, and his singles career. And listen to what he has to say about Mr. T. Love talking Mr. T with Devon Dudley. And right after that, we'll hear from our friends at All Things Wrestling podcast. So let's get to it. Here is Devon Dudley. Well, we're joined again by Devon Dudley. Devon, thanks for joining us. What's going on in your world now?
Oh, thank you. Just enjoying retirement.
Yeah.
It's like I come in, I leave, I come back, I leave, I come back, but I don't know. This might be it for me.
Might be? What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, the body's getting weary and older, and I told Bubba, I was like, if I do any more wrestling matches, it'll be with him and with him only.
Okay.
Not by myself or anything like that. So I'm not looking to have that world title run. I've had 24-time World Tag Team Champions, and I'm good with that.
So you and Bubba still keep in touch? I mean, he's so busy with Busted Open now.
Yeah, we definitely keep in touch. He's, I mean, again, we've been together for over 20 years. I saw him more than I saw my family.
Yeah.
You know, so as far as all of that goes, we still keep in contact. We still do autograph signings together, and we're still doing our thing. I have a wrestling school in Winter Park.
Tell me about that. Where's that at?
It's in Winter Park. It's 3 minutes away from the Performance Center, and we've got a lot of people coming out of there that went to NXT, that went to New Japan, All Japan. And I said NXT, but we have a lot of people everywhere. We're just producing stars for tomorrow.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is how are you doing? You say you're probably hanging up. How's life? I know wrestlers, you've taken so much abuse to the body over the years.
Well, I had back surgery, so I was dealing with that for a little bit. Still am. I found a new solution, a new pill, so to speak, or shall I say a new rehab, and it's called Diamond Dallas Page.
Oh, you've been using DDP.
DDP yoga, I will swear by it. I will say that it's probably one of the best things I've ever done. I wish that I would have had it in the very beginning of my career, because my body probably wouldn't have been so beat up. But when you're young, you don't pay attention to all of that crap, so you're just like, what the heck. But now I wish I would have. It is definitely the gospel when it comes to rehabbing your body.
Before we came in, ironically, I think it was yesterday, I'm watching a clip of you and the Acolytes playing poker. And I think Bubba gets like 6 aces or something like that. He cheated.
Yeah, we wound up getting our asses kicked after that.
That's what I want to know. What was it like? I think I saw you and Ron Simmons just trading blows. That's probably not fun.
No, it's not. But when you're 24, 25 years old and you're in there with a guy that the likes of Ron Simmons, you think you can handle it until that situation happens, and then you realize when you're back in the locker room, what the hell was I thinking?
Really? So he's as tough as they say he is.
When you look in the dictionary, under the definition of a man is Ron Simmons' picture.
Okay.
That's all I can say about that.
That would make sense. That would make sense. So how did the end of WWE come for you? The first WWE run before he went to TNA, how did that happen?
Well, the contract ran out, and we weren't going to renew it. Or we were going to renew it, and then the powers that be decided they didn't want to renew it, so we left and went to TNA. It was more of a money decision.
What are your thoughts on where the industry is now? WWE and UFC have merged. Vince is gone. There's an AEW on the horizon. What are your thoughts on where the industry's at now, right now?
Two things. Number one, I'm very happy that Triple H is in power. Nothing against Vince McMahon. I think Vince McMahon for over 50 years did an excellent job, and he's the reason why we're still talking about pro wrestling today.
Yeah.
So you cannot take that away from him. But like Vince used to like to tell us, it's time to get rid of the old and bring in the new. And that's so evident when we watch and see what Triple H is doing now. I'm a huge fan of Paul Levesque, Triple H, and as far as I'm concerned, I am a Paul Levesque guy, a Triple H guy.
Gotcha. And one other thing, so you leave, you go to TNA, and last time we talked, you said that there was a great celebrity in history of wrestling, it was Mr. T. Would you say he was the greatest celebrity in the history of pro wrestling crossover, most impactful?
Well, yes, especially in terms of stardom. I mean, if you were born in the 80s and you knew right after Rocky III came out, Mr. T was hot.
Do you think he was as big as Hogan? Let me rephrase.
Absolutely.
Do you think he impacted as much as Hogan did going into WrestleMania?
I think he was the crossover. It was like what Run DMC was with Aerosmith with the Walk This Way. He merged the entertainment business with the wrestling business.
And kids were watching because of him.
Kids were watching because of him. Him, Cyndi Lauper, Dave Wolf, the whole rock and wrestling connection. It was something special. You really had to be there to know.
Devon Dudley, thanks for joining us on the show again today.
Thanks,
Devon.
man.
Well, now we're joined by Tony Twist from ATW All Things Wrestling Podcast. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Been meaning to get you on. We need to get you on more.
That's all right.
But tell me
Happy
a little
to be
bit.
on.
Before we start, let's talk about ATW. Tell people where it is, where to find it.
Yeah, so ATW All Things Wrestling Podcast. You could search that in YouTube. We're on Instagram, ATW Podcast for Life. We're on Facebook, ATW All Things Wrestling Podcast. So do a search for that. You should find us. Been around for a couple of years. I don't do a show consistently every week. I used to.
But you share a lot of good ringside content, which we appreciate here.
Love going ringside. Yes,
Yeah.
Going ringside.
So you're based in
You've been
Arizona.
a breath
is
of
that
fresh
right?
air.
Are you based in Arizona?
Yes, I am in Arizona. I'm in northern Arizona.
Okay, well, we got to talk about Devon Dudley is our topic of the day. Devon, thoughts on him? He has been doing this forever, it seems like.
Devon Dudley, boy, oh boy. Well, when you think of Devon Dudley, I mean, it goes hand in hand. You think of the Dudley boys. In my opinion, and probably in many opinion, maybe the most decorated tag team maybe ever. Definitely the most decorated tag team from the Attitude Era.
So I'm going to stop you right there because I want to ask the question that I think is the debate on tag team wrestling. Dudley's Road Warriors. Any
Oh
thoughts?
man, you know what? There would probably be no Dudleys without the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
But they're two different eras of wrestling. I mean, man, that was, that time was also a great era for tag team wrestling. I think tag team wrestling's missing so much today. But the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, man, what a time for tag team wrestling. Demolition though, I mean, it's really hard to compare. It's like talking about the NBA and Michael Jordan versus Kareem versus, LeBron. You can't really do it. Definitely both legendary tag teams though, for sure.
I'm going to go down a little. We're going to weave off path for a second. We'll get back to Devon on the tag. You mentioned the thing about we don't see a lot of tag teams. I never quite understood that as a kid, the business model of it. But someone once explained to me that tag teams, Vince or whoever the company is, they have to pay for two people, two hotels, two airplane tickets, all that. Do you think it's finances, or do you think fans just don't care as much? Why don't we see as many tag teams anymore?
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with finances. I think, like everything else, it goes in cycles. And I think right now, I don't know, the tag team product hasn't been as it has been in the past. I don't know what it is. You look at tag teams today, like the Motor City Machine Guns or the Street Profits. You do have DIY. I mean, you do have some pretty solid tag teams. But in my eyes, I don't know, in the fans' eyes, I don't, these guys are not on the level as previous eras of tag teams. In my opinion, that's just my opinion.
I agree with you. And the Dudleys, I mean, when Dudleys came into WWE and you had them, you had APA, you had Edge and Christian, Hardys, it was just insane.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fantastic and fun time for tag team wrestling. But look what they did during that era. They got innovative, took a lot of things from the indie scene. ECW was a huge proponent and a catalyst in launching the Attitude Era. There was a lot of things. It was kind of a perfect storm. You had ECW, and then not too much after that. Eric Bischoff got a lot of ideas. The NWO. To me, the NWO is the start of the Attitude Era, even though they weren't with WWE. But without the NWO, there would have not been an Attitude Era. And so it's just like, there's just so many things, so many cycles in wrestling. It's a fun ride. I mean, right now it's a great time to be a fan. The product out there, the overall product is just fantastic. And you look in different organizations. I mean, hey, in NXT, they got some pretty solid tag teams. TNA does tag, well. Not too sure about AEW, but I think there just needs to be some kind of a kick in the pants for the tag team division to kind of light a fire under the fans again. Like during the Attitude Era when they started doing the tables, ladders, and chairs match, and they're getting crazy. Some of it gets a little extreme nowadays, which I'm not too big of a fan
Yeah.
of, like death matches and things like that. But I think tag team wrestling will come around again. I'm
Well, let's
just
go back to
not
the
sure when.
Dudleys. The Dudleys. So I talked to Devon about it the first time we had him on, not this time.
Right.
When they put Mae Young through a table, Devon told me Vince thought it would make them heels. The Dudleys rightly said no.
Right.
Fans will just cheer us louder. I mean, their table spots on like Trish and Lita, I think they did, and then of course Mae Young, just that cemented them, don't you think?
It's memorable. I mean, you mentioned it, and I started laughing because I could picture it in my head. And at the time, as a fan watching, you were like, "Holy cow! Like, did that just happen?" They just put this senior citizen through a table, and it was the Dudleys, so it was done with force. But Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young, they did so many great segments with WWE at that time, and that just happened to be one of them.
Well, talk to me about so eventually WWE, their time in WWE lasted a while, but they go the TNA route. And you see them kind of split at times. Uh, Bully Ray is
Right.
created, and Devon does his own thing. What do you think their singles careers were like?
Well, I think if you ask Bubba Ray or Bully Ray, he'll probably tell you it was great. Right? I think Bubba Ray or Bully Ray, he probably had a better run as a singles wrestler in TNA. I think the WWE universe is always just going to know them as the Dudley Boys.
Yeah.
Um, but Bubba Ray
Do you think
definitely.
they're like kind of like I think of just character actors. Like if a guy plays Superman, it's hard for him to get another role. Do you think Dudley's kind of had that to a point that you can't leave that gimmick?
I think those wrestlers, especially of that era, they were just so cemented as tag teams. The Dudleys, the Hardys, Edge
Yeah.
and Christian, and I think if you look at those six guys, they all had their own individual runs. I would say out of those six gentlemen, I would say Edge, Adam Copeland, definitely probably the more successful singles run. Christian's had a great run. Bubba Ray's had a great run. The Hardy Boys as
The Hardys are
individuals.
back together. I mean, the Hardys
Yeah, I
eventually, I
mean,
think they realized we should be together.
yeah, and I think that's the case with some guys. I think with the Dudley Boys, I think maybe Devon might have had a hard time trying to find his footing as a singles wrestler, but he had a little bit of a singles run in WWE too, as brother Devon,
Yeah.
and they've had some success. Do I think they're more successful as a tag team? Absolutely.
Well, I want to venture on to Bully Ray real quick. He's kind of reinvented himself as like the mouth of wrestling in some
Yeah.
respects, don't you think?
Yeah, I think the mouthpiece of maybe that era. Watching him on LFG, the WWE LFG as being a coach, it's funny to see the different coaches' styles and things like that. But with his Busted Open show and with Dave LaGreca and other members of that show, Bubba Ray's definitely standing out. I'm a big fan of Bubba Ray. As his persona is now, whether that's more of a persona or that's more him, I feel like it's more him.
Now, I'll say this: this kind of gonna venture. Uh, Tyrus on Fox News brought Bully Ray on a couple times as his guest, and I was wondering, is he going to break through to beyond wrestling in a way no one had? Like Rock and Cena did it with movies. I've never really seen anyone do it just kind of as like a media figure. I was wondering if Bully Ray was going to try that because he's
I
got
don't
a
know.
mouth. I mean, he can talk as good as anyone.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's you can't dispute that. But Tyrus though, that's a whole different beast. I don't see Bubba or Bully Ray. I don't see him going into like that. I don't think
That
we're
would
gonna
be
see him
that'd be
on
a large.
CNNBC or Fox News or any of those. I mean, I don't know. I don't see it, but hey, he might see it a different way.
It would be fascinating to see.
He's got one hell of
Something
a fan base, so
he does. I mean, he'd bring in new viewers. I mean,
yeah.
that's something who probably aren't watching. Um, Devon told me something that I asked him both times I've talked to him, which I think is interesting. He is of the opinion that Mr. T is as responsible for WrestleMania success as anyone. A lot of people look back at Mr. T, and I don't know if they give him enough credit, but he thinks without Mr. T and to a point Cyndi Lauper, it wasn't just Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon that built WrestleMania and WWF at the time. Do you think Mr. T is often a forgotten about, mega influence on wrestling we watch today?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's forgotten. I grew up watching that era, and I mean he's right. Mr. T was a huge catalyst in launching of, the WWF at the time, the WWE into the mega monster company that it was. I mean, I think it was a perfect storm, and it was a lot of pieces that kind of came together at the perfect time. And Vince and Hogan being the brains, I think. But yeah, without your celebrity, Mr. T, Cyndi Lauper, so many of those original WrestleManias 1, 2, and 3, they wouldn't have been, I don't think, the success that they were if it wasn't for those crossovers. I mean, Mr. T was huge.
Yeah.
He didn't
I
need
think
the
he's as big of a
WWF.
star for kids is, I'd say, anyone in the world at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the A-Team was, a hugely popular television show. They had the cartoons, you had the Mr. T cereal. I mean,
Yeah.
in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Pee-wee Herman's there eating the cereal. It's Mr. T cereal. Like,
Yep.
so, I mean, he was pop culture.
So Devon has a school now in Orlando, and I was talking to a wrestler we had on who went through his school, who's a pretty big wrestler now, pretty well known. And he was saying Devon will beat you. He was saying it is not a pleasant experience to go through Devon Dudley School. You will learn, but it's not for the weak at heart. It's not for the faint at heart. Are you surprised Devon would stretch you, work you, teach you the ropes?
Not at all. Those guys, I mean, from the time that they, when they were cutting their teeth, these guys are doing shows in front of, a handful of people. You're talking about guys that really paid their dues coming up in that era, and ECW, I mean, that's the perfect training ground for guys, in my opinion. I mean, all those guys were tough as nails. And they would know. I would think they would know exactly what to put guys through in a wrestling school. You see these shows, the LFG and the Tough Enough and things like that. You feel like it's a lot of production. It's a lot of TV show and what's real and what's not. The behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, going through his wrestling school, I'm sure it's not for the faint of heart.
I got to confess something. I'm doing it here at the end of the show, so no one hears it. I frankly have never watched a lot of TNA in my life. I watched clips on the internet. I've never sat down and watched TNA. And one of your thoughts, so you have TNA today. Our friend Victoria is obviously there, but they got other things going on in TNA. But the original iteration of TNA with Jeff Jarrett, Hall, Nash, Steiner, Dudley, Sting, Angle, Samoa Joe. What did you think of that? Did it seem to you like an extension of WCW, or what was your thought on it?
No, I watched it from its inception. When they made a big deal about, NWA is now TNA, nonstop impact or total
Yeah.
trying to remember the acronym for it. But no, it was fantastic. It was a wonderful alternative to the WWE at the time, who as a fan at that time I felt was becoming stale.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were becoming stale. But when I think of TNA and its inception, the guy that you didn't mention, AJ Styles.
Yeah.
AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, those guys, to me, when I think of TNA from that era, that's who the first guys I think of. AJ had the baby face, he had the short hair, and he was a kid back then. I think we're about the same age. So it was like, wow, to see this guy and the stuff he was doing. TNA was doing something different. And then those guys came over, Hogan, Jared, Kurt Angle, all those guys, kind of coming over. It seemed like, it was like they were copying a little bit of maybe what WCW did. And I think maybe they did. And it's kind of just started going off the rails a little bit after a few years.
I had Rampage Jackson on the show a couple of weeks ago. I asked him a question about which wrestler do you think could have done well in the octagon? And he immediately, Samoa Joe.
Right.
You surprised to hear that?
Not at all. The guy looks like he'd kick your ass.
Yeah.
Not just in wrestling. You see some of these guys, you see these wrestlers and they're bigger than life, but they're the biggest sweethearts. You know what I mean? Samoa Joe looks like a guy that he will put you to sleep.
Yeah, he absolutely will.
So Rampage is right on the money with that one, in my opinion.
Tony Twist with All Things Wrestling Podcast. Tony, one more time where fans can find you.
Yeah, ATW All Things Wrestling Podcast. Can find us on YouTube, Instagram. It's ATW Podcast for Life on Facebook. ATW All Things Wrestling. We try to do when we do a show, it's live. I like going live. I just like getting genuine reactions and just really just having real conversations with people. So keep an eye out for an upcoming live show. Trying to book a few big guests. So just stay tuned and keep an eye on our socials.
Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you having me on, sir.
So I appreciate Devon, our friends at All Things Wrestling Podcast, and of course AJ earlier on in the show. But now I got to shift to a different promotion. That'd be Old School Wrestling out of Woodbury, Georgia. They do shows up there, kind of like the way it used to be, if you're an old school wrestling fan like I am. And while we don't talk to him, he's hovering in the background of this interview the largest man I think I may have ever seen in my life. So let's get to it. Here's our friends at Old School Wrestling up in Woodbury, Georgia. Well, we're joined now by OSW Big Steel from Old School Wrestling up in Georgia.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for joining us on the show today.
I really appreciate it.
Before we go any further,
Yes,
who
sir.
is this right here?
What, who? Who are we talking about?
Maybe the guy over your right shoulder.
Oh, crap. Yeah, that is El Diablo.
El Diablo. How tall is El Diablo?
El Diablo is 7'4", right at almost 400 pounds.
I'm going to keep my distance a little.
Yes,
Talk
sir.
to me about OSW and Old School Wrestling.
Well, Old School Wrestling is a company that's been based about 14 years, and we run out of Woodbury, Georgia, and Thomaston, Georgia. That's on the other side of Macon, Georgia.
Yeah.
Just about anybody and everybody that you can imagine that work this old school like us, old guys, they work for us, and we have a great time. We have huge crowds. Of course, Mr. Alexander is keeping us in charge, making sure we have our cars and our suitcases, and making sure everything, and making sure El Diablo gets his food. Because
you don't want him unhappy.
Because if he don't get his food, we got a problem.
So how can people?
And then TC Carter, Soul
TC
Man.
Carter. How can people keep track of your organization?
Well, you can go to Facebook and look under Old School Wrestling and make sure you pull up the Georgia division, because there's 3 of them, and I own the one in Georgia. The other 2, one of them used to be owned by Tully Blanchard, and the other one was owned by Greg Valentine.
What do they get if they come to one of your shows and head up to Georgia for it?
Man, a lot of excitement, a lot of Bengay smell, and that's it. But again, it's a funny story. I remember the guys walking in one day, and we were some young cats that was in there, and they were making sure they were in the right arena. He walked in the door and went, never mind, we're in the right place. Old School Wrestling.
OSW, Old School Wrestling.
But yes, we're here tonight. I mean, we're here, and we might be working tonight. And I'm going to tell you, just like we tell everybody else, we're with the Beast Club. We might wind up clearing out the whole damn arena.
Well, we'll look forward to it. OSW Old School Wrestling, thank you, Big Steel. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I appreciate them. If you're ever in that part of Georgia, maybe check them out. You can go find them online. They're not hard to find. And thanks to Devon. Hope his academy continues to do well and crank out the stars. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Going Ringside. I'm your host, Scott Johnson. We'll see you back here next time.
This has been Going Ringside with The Local Station, brought to you every Wednesday on your favorite podcast player, on News4 Jax Plus, as well as the News4 Jax YouTube channel.